too, it's Mrs McCardle here. I'm super excited to be able to share this week's home learning with you. Before we go any further, on behalf of myself, Miss Smith and Miss Miller, I just want to say that not only are we missing each and every one of you, but we're so incredibly proud of you all for your hard work, your perseverance and resilience with your home learning. So well done, keep it up. Now this week, we are celebrating Bank Holiday on Friday. That's a little bit unusual as normally we celebrate a bank holiday on a Monday, but Friday the 8th of May, is a very, very special occasion. I'm wondering if you can watch this short video clip and see why.
By 1945, the Second World War had gone on for nearly 6 years of bloodshed and sacrifice, but things were beginning to change. Following the success of D-Day, the Allied armies in Western Europe from Britain, France, Canada and the United States started to advance on Berlin from the west. Meanwhile, Soviet forces were attacking from the east, leaving Nazi Germany surrounded. On the 7th of May, 1945, Nazi German officials agreed to a complete surrender. Special issues of newspapers were printed to announce the surrender, and news that the war in Europe was finally over spread very quickly. Details circulated that the next day, the 8th of May, would be a public holiday known as Victory in Europe Day, or VE Day. On VE Day, the Prime Minister Winston Churchill and the royal family appeared on the balcony of Buckingham Palace. They were met by a huge crowd and chants of "We want the King" for the reigning King George VI. The royal family made 8 appearances on the balcony that day to celebrate with the people, and dancing, music and other celebrations continued into the night.
That's right, it's VE Day, or Victory in Europe Day. So this week, your learning in English is based on an information text. Let's have a look at reading it together. Victory in Europe Day. Victory in Europe Day is also known as VE Day and is celebrated on the 8th of May every year. It is a day to remember the end of the fighting in Europe in the Second World War. We remember the bravery of the soldiers who fought in the war and those who lost their lives. Did you know? The Second World War lasted for nearly 6 years. It was a war that involved countries from all around the world. The war started in Europe and then Nazi Germany invaded the country of Poland. The man in charge of Germany at the time was a very unkind man. The people of Britain fought Germany for their freedom. The British Prime Minister. Today, our Prime Minister is called Boris Johnson. He is leading us through this difficult time, but during the war, the Prime Minister was the man called Winston Churchill. At 3 p.m. on May the 8th, 1945, at the very end of the war, the Prime Minister, Winston Churchill, made a speech to announce the end of the war. He said, "My dear friends, this is your hour. This is not victory of a party or of any class. It's a victory of the great British nation as a whole." The first VE Day. People travelled to London for parades, dancing and singing. The centre of London was filled with people wearing red, white and blue and waving flags. There were street parties all over the country. Fireworks filled the sky with flashes of light. Princess Elizabeth and Princess Margaret even slipped out of Buckingham Palace to join in with the celebrations in London. We would like you to think, how might you celebrate VE Day this year? Now, for your English learning, there are a range of learning opportunities. There are some read and respond questions. Remember to skim and scan the text to find the evidence. Answer your questions in full sentences with a capital letter and full stop. You might want to imagine that along with Princess Elizabeth and Princess Margaret that you were out during the street parties too. Write a postcard. Explain everything that you experienced. What did you see? What could you hear? What was the atmosphere like? Who were you with? Also, your creative opportunity learning this week linked to VE Day. Have a look at the DT learning. Go to the supermarkets, buy the ingredients. Can you make your wartime biscuits to share those with your grown-ups and have a celebration? You might want to dust off your dancing shoes. Follow the instructions to learn to Lindy Hop. The Lindy Hop was a very popular dance during the 1940s, and many people would line the streets to celebrate VE Day and Lindy Hop with their families. Why don't you have a go at doing that, or even perform to your families if you wish to? There's some geography and history learning opportunities. Find out a little bit more about the countries that were involved in the war. Could you timeline the key events? Have a look which countries were involved. Can you identify them on the map? And finally, get creative and arty. Decorate your house. Let's get lots of bunting, red, white and blue. Let's celebrate VE Day together. Now for maths learning this week. We're continuing with looking at fabulous fractions. Last week you looked at unit fractions where the numerator was 1. This week we're looking at non-unit fractions where, as you've probably guessed, the numerator is any whole number larger than 1. Part of your learning is to look at finding fractions of an amount, so I thought we'd use this time and look at it together. Let's start with 1/3 of 12. Now, just like yourselves, I've been missing Miss Smith and Miss Miller, so I thought I would share with them my favourite sweets when we return to school. I have got 12 sweets altogether. This is my whole number. And I know I am sharing my sweets between the three of us, and that's what my denominator is also telling me. Now, because they're fractions, we must remember to share my sweets out equally. So, 1 sweet for me, 1 for Miss Smith, 1 for Miss Miller. Another sweet for me, another for Miss Smith, another for Miss Miller. And I continue to share them out equally. Now, I am keeping 1/3 of my 12 sweets. So if we have a look, how many sweets does this equal? 1, 2, 3, 4. I am eating 4 sweets because that is 1/3 of my 12. I am giving away, I am sharing 2/3 of my 12 sweets between Miss Miller and Miss Smith. So if we have a look, how many sweets are here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that tells me that 2/3 of 12 equals 8. Now, some of you may have spotted that if 1/3 of 12 equals 4, 2/3 must equal 8 because 4 times 2 gives me 8. Now, when you have a go at finding fractions of amounts, I advise my top tip, have a look what everyday household objects you could use to share equally. Sweets are an easy option. Things like buttons, spare change, pieces of pasta, if you've been able to get any when you've been going food shopping. If not, you might also want to draw a diagram. So if I go back to my 1/3 of 12, I'm sharing between 3 of us, so I have my 3 sharing circles, and I share my 12 sweets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Just by looking at my diagram, I can see 1/3 equals 4. And I can see that the 2/3 equal 8. Give it a go yourselves at home. Now, before I leave you, just a reminder, you can still access all the amazing resources and online daily lessons through the Oak National Academy. There's also lots of fabulous resources on the BBC Bite Size. Keep logging into your My Maths account because there's learning there for you to attempt as well. All that's left for me to say, you two, is that I hope you enjoy your VE Day celebrations, whatever you decide to do at home. Keep looking after yourselves and your families. Stay safe. Keep smiling, and we hope to see you very, very soon. Bye for now.